What's going on, ladies and gentlemen and ladies? We have to talk about a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Ed Pulsick, which is the lawyers that are representing the boys in the Nolan Wells case, had a lot to say in some letters that he sent to Nancy Grace based on her coverage. We're going to cover that here in a minute. Teslin, a lady that wanted to interview with me. I ain't watched the clip yet. We're going to see what her and Elliot Connie, who's both of them are lames, in my opinion, what they had to say about your boy. Black people cutting up everywhere. We're going to post that. And before we get to that, we have to talk about these people who have been lynched and around the country, and they're saying that they've been lynched by white people, which is absolutely ridiculous if you don't have any evidence. Welcome to the Officer Tatum Show.
I want everybody in this room to have that same spirit, that same identity carried in your life.
Make sure that you go through life and find your purpose.
And we don't do this just to get a pat on the back. We do it because we came here to win.
And it starts with you understanding that God has a purpose for you.
This is the time to be more bold than ever before.
We're all Americans at the end of the day, and we should love one another. We should be focused on what's right for our country.
Welcome back. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the members. Thank you all for joining the membership program. We've been exploding on our membership programs with your support, and I appreciate it. You guys supporting at any level gives us the ability to do extra things, go out and travel and bring content to you. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the people that have been members for a very long time. Some of y'all have been members since day one, and I love you and appreciate the support, and we all appreciate you. This is from B. Tatum and the whole team. So thank you so much. Hit the join button if you want to join. Also, make sure you show up to this event. This is one of my first events. This is my own personal event. I'm not partnering with nobody on it. It's B. Tatum's event. If you love bourbon, this is the event for you. We're going to be at the Fish House, the famous Fish House in Florida. Everybody knows. It's called 30A, Area 30A. I don't know. My assistant told me that. She told me that was, one of the most prominent areas in Florida. It is September the 16th and 17th. The first day is going to be a bourbon tasting and 5-course meal with Verdict bourbon infused into the meal. Incredible. I saw the menu already. It will blow your socks off. Second event is going to be the Officer Tatum Show brought to you in person. Pretty much it's just me in person going over all the things that you guys love me talking about. It's going to be incredible. This is my first event. We're going to do many across the country. But show up to my first event, show some love in Florida. All right, let's get to the first topic of the day, and that's black people being lynched around the country. Let me get my thoughts on this, and then we're going to play the young lady, Tasia Fortune, who is the more current person who has been hanging from a tree. Let's put this in perspective. As a former police officer, and every cop and everybody that deals with these things know that I'm honest and I'm telling the truth about this, is that people hang themselves all the time. It's not the easiest and most convenient way that people unalive themselves, but it does happen. And when I'm looking at these situations where people are saying black people being lynched all over the country, that doesn't make sense to me as far as somebody acting like it's so prolific that it's a problem. The 8 people, I think, it's 40 million black people in the United States of America. 8 people hanging from a tree is not an epidemic of lynching. Now, if you're going to talk about a person who is hanging from a tree in an apparent suicide or it could be a homicide, before you jump to race, you need to have evidence. It's not out of the ordinary for people to hang themselves as a form of unaliving themselves. And so every time a black person used that methodology to unalive themselves and you jump to conclusions that it had to be a white person and invoke lynching, which was, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, it does not make logical sense. And when you jump to that conclusion, you become upset with law enforcement because they're not doing or investigating the fantasy that you created in your mind. So let me get to this young lady, Tasia Fortune. And I would say, I wish that everybody's parents and family would approach these situations like her family. Because, of course, they want answers. They deserve answers. Everybody should want there to be a solution to an issue of a young lady who's hanging from a tree. But they didn't invoke racism. They didn't invoke none of that stuff. They just want to know what happened, and that's 100% fair and reasonable. Roll the clip.
Tasia Fortune's death has alarmed a lot of people, sparking fears about racially motivated murders. Now, police haven't said exactly how she died, but this morning, her mother telling our team that she knows her daughter did not do this to herself.
This morning, growing demands for answers in Mississippi after a 29-year-old mother of 4 was found dead, hanging from a tree.
We're going to press this as far as we can press it until she gets justice.
Tasia Fortune's body was discovered last week behind a vacant house in Jackson. The family telling ABC News the circumstances surrounding her death do not add up.
Tasia loved living life. Like, there's no way that she took her own life.
The Jackson Police Department saying, quote, an active death investigation is underway. They have not named any suspects and declined to comment on local reports that they questioned the father of one of Fortune's children about the death. Court records show Terrence Anderson, who's behind bars on an unrelated weapons charge, lives on the same street block where Fortune's body was found.
No one's trying blaming.
Time out. I think there's things that we call context clues. The likelihood of this being somebody that knows her is highly more likely than a random white person hanging her in a black community. I haven't seen the demographic of this community, but knowing the way demographics work, knowing that most people who are the same race and color live around each other, especially in the South, more than likely this is a black neighborhood. One of her baby daddies live on the same street that this happened on. More than likely, it's either her making the decision to do this or potentially somebody that knows her did this, more than a random white person who is a part of the KKK randomly hanging her in the back of a yard down the street from her baby daddy. I'm just throwing it out there. Roll the clip.
Head or anything like that, we just
want answers.
Meanwhile, concern growing in the community and among local leaders given Mississippi's troubling history with lynchings and racially motivated killings. In the last year, Mississippi police have responded to 2 other tree hanging deaths. Both were ruled suicide.
2 tree hanging deaths. These are the 2 people who were hanging. One is black and one is not black. So the 2 other hangings were one that was black, one is not black. The young black man that we see here, Trey Reed, I think that's Trey Reed. That young man, there's no evidence that it was foul play. Trey Reed allegedly sent the message to somebody saying he was going to unalive himself, and shortly after, this is the result of that. There's no evidence of a foul play. There's no evidence that it was racially motivated. And he already mentioned that he wanted to take his own life. And to put an icing on the cake, Benjamin Crump abandoned the family and never released the independent autopsy that would have revealed evidence of something if there is anything to be found. Why is that? So when you put these things together, you realize not only black people are found hanging from trees, there's also white people. Then you put in conjunction with that Benjamin Crump comes out and get these people all riled up over it, but they're not really telling the truth about what the results ended up being. They just put it out there. People say, all black people being hanged in America, and then they move on to the next subject. Roll the clip.
Besides, Fortune's family rallying around her young children as they navigate this tragic loss.
She was a good mom, She loved her kids and she loved her family.
And even though Tasia's death has sparked conversation about racially motivated murders, her mother tells our team that she does not want her daughter's name associated with that. There is an autopsy that's pending and should determine whether there was foul play involved in her death. Right now, though, police are urging anyone with information about how this young mother died to step forward.
Now, in the spirit of being reasonable, right? You can take the unreasonable route and you can blame everything on racism. If you look at the demographics and you look at the statistical data points of who is more likely to kill a person of color, 98+%, and many of these areas, almost 100% of African-American people are responsible for killing each other. So the likelihood and the unnecessary fear that somehow the white boogeyman is going to be responsible for your death is misplaced, in my personal opinion. Here's more. The city council is making this, and the family, as you see, they didn't say nothing about race. They want to know what happened to their daughter. They don't believe their daughter would have done this. Now, anybody that have ever had a person who committed suicide in their family, most people would say that they didn't believe the person would do it. It was something that was shocking to everybody. And most people are like, they wouldn't have never done this. Unfortunately, we don't know the demons that people are struggling with on the inside. Obviously, that's why it's unsuspecting of people when they do something like this. Most of the cases that I've done that people have committed or unalived themselves, the family had no idea. People doubted that they would even ever do it. Unfortunately, they were dealing with demons that nobody knew about, and they ended up unaliving themselves. This could very well be that case, given the fact that there's no evidence to present any other reason why this young woman could be hanging from a tree. Roll the clip.
Councilman Kenneth Stokes says he just sent a letter to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi asking for the agency to help in any way it can after a young woman was found hanging from a tree in an abandoned home in West Jackson.
Anything that they can provide to get this hanging case solved quickly. We need to have someone in handcuffs as soon as yesterday.
The Hinds County coroner identified the woman as 29-year-old Tasia Fortune. Investigators say Fortune's body had been hanging in the tree for 3 to 4 days before someone found it Monday night at the house on Road of Remembrance. Stokes' letter to the U.S. Attorney asked for help finding a suspect and a motive for the killing.
Everywhere you go, they talking about that hanging. I don't care where you go, to the grocery store, to get something to eat, people talking about that hanging.
The Jackson Police Department has said little about the case in the past 4 days. Other than a late Monday night social media post, JPD has been so tight-lipped they haven't even sent out a press release.
Once upon a time, a press release will have come out quickly because of the sensitive nature of hangings in Mississippi.
Alrighty, let's talk about it.
In a Thursday interview with 16 WAPT, Police Chief Rochelle Brackney refused to answer any questions about the hanging investigation. Councilman Stokes says even if there's no...
Let's just put this in perspective. The young lady that you see there appeared to be either mixed or black. Majority of the Jackson Police Department is black. I feel like that people have a vested interest to get you convinced that this is a white town in the middle of Mississippi. Everybody's white. This young innocent black girl is hunted down by these white Klan members from 200 years ago. In reality, the majority of the police department is black. Therefore, mishandling of an investigation is probably more so the mishandling of black investigators. I would argue that black people would not allow for a young black woman to be hung by a white man who's a Klans member that had all these kids and they not do nothing about it. Unless you're convinced that even black police officers are all racist too. It just doesn't make sense. A majority black police department, almost 50-50 black population in the city. Majority of people who are black live around other black people. This woman has her baby daddy. She has multiple baby daddies. The baby daddy that live on the same street just went to jail for weapons charges. Now, he may not have done it, but he's clearly a person of interest that could have had something to do with it. Why are they framing it the way that they're framing it? This continues racism in America unnecessarily. How about you allow the investigation from a majority black police department to come to a close before you generalize or make an inference of racism? It just doesn't make sense in this situation. Roll the clip.
Racial element to this hanging, he says, given Mississippi's history of lynchings, public officials all across the city need to step up and say this is unacceptable behavior. Reporting from Jackson, Ross Adams, 16 WAPT News.
Let me give you a statistic. In the history of lynching, 68-year history of lynching, there was around 3,200 black people who were lynched. In the 68-year history, there are more black people who maliciously and violently kill other black people in a 6-month period than the entire legacy of lynching in American history. So why is it that they're framing it as if lynching is a viral reality for black Americans when being murdered by a black person is 100 times more? I mean, it's probably, I don't even know the number. It's insanely more likely. I was looking at statistical data in Mississippi, and in the last 10 years, 3,500 black people were killed by black people. That's more than entire history of lynching in 68 years of lynching. What are we talking about? In Mississippi alone, more people have died in 10 years than the whole entire legacy of lynching at the hands of other black people. Then you got to ask yourself, why are people pushing this? They're either brainwashed, ignorant, or they have an agenda. Here's an example of that agenda. Roll the clip.
A black man was found hanging from a tree in Cleveland, Mississippi at Delta State University. His name was Trey Reed.
This is Trey Reed case. This is not necessarily a young lady, so this is just an example of them pushing the Trey Reed case. And obviously, they're not mentioning anything about the fact that he admitted to his girlfriend, sent her a message that he was going to want to take his own life. That's never mentioned in this. Roll the clip.
And he was a 21-year-old college student. And the university police are saying from their initial reports that it looks like it was a self-termination and that there was no foul play, right? Mind you, they don't have the coroner's report yet, so they don't know 100%. Those are the facts of the story. Now, the speculation and all the other stuff is, and there's a video that was circulating, but I believe the family asked for it to be taken down out of respect for Trey Reed and for them during their time of mourning. And there are different people who are saying that this man looked like his legs were broken. He looked like he was beaten, like black and blue. I believe there's a video out there of his cousin saying that he looks like he was beaten. It looks like they're trying to hide something. All of that is speculation, right? But here's my thoughts and opinions on it. As morbid and as tragic and as horrible as self-termination is, I hope that it was self-termination, because if it was, that is straightforward, that is cut and dry. That family can mourn their family member without all the extra stuff, right? However, if this was a group termination done by these people, and I was going to say, like, oh, it's done in the South, so I'm automatically going to give it a side eye. But with the state of the U.S. right now, it could be done anywhere. Black person, rope in tree, I immediately am giving it a side eye. And to me, I'm like, why wasn't it done? Like, you never know the thoughts of a person going through that, right? Like, I know mine because I've been there. But, like, why was it not at their house or something like that or whatever? You don't really know the details of that. But if it was a group of
white people
doing that, then that's going to amplify the craziness.
All right, let's. This is the ignorance that I'm talking about. Let's get to the next clip. Here's white guilt showing up, projecting on these situations that are not related whatsoever. It's fascinating to me because that university that he went to, Delta University, what was it called? Delta, I think, University? That university is like 47% or 40-some% black. This is not a black kid that come from a white neighborhood and a white university. It's a pretty mixed university with 40-some% black. That's a heavily black university. That's more black people at that university than any other university probably in Mississippi. So the likelihood of there being racial biases that led to one man's death that nobody has any evidence of it or evidence that it was racially motivated is highly unlikely. But when you have stew heads and people that can't think outside of their potentially advocacy of virality on social media, then you get stuff like this. Roll the clip.
Anyone know who Stacey Turner is? No, nor did I.
Look at her.
The Nolan Wells case and the Trey Reed case.
Time out. How does these cases belong together? How? Okay, roll it.
Damian Cameron case, and now Tasia Fortune. So Stacey Turner is the medical examiner in Mississippi responsible for ruling Trey's death a suicide when he was lynched and hung and murdered. She's also responsible for ruling Damian Cameron's death undetermined, even though it was a classic, obvious police brutality case where he was restrained by police officers and had internal bleeding and severe bruising. And now, 3 years later, independent autopsies have revealed that it was homicide. She is also responsible.
See, people, first of all, this lady ain't even American. They don't understand how investigations work. Just because the autopsy is undetermined don't mean that there wasn't foul play or criminal activity. You don't rely only on the autopsy to make arrests when people are doing things that they should not do. If you go and kill somebody and you burn them to death and there's no, and it's just bones and ashes, it's undetermined how they actually died. But that does not mean you can't arrest the person for killing them, because there's things called other evidence. And when you're stupid and you go, oh, it's undetermined, that therefore nothing is going to happen, an independent autopsy turning into a homicide, that does not mean that anybody's going to be guilty of that murder, of that homicide either. Because anytime a police officer kills somebody, justifiably or not, it's a homicide. is considered a homicide. Homicide just means that the death came at the hands of another person. The death at the hands of another person can be justified through defense, self-defense, or justifiable use of force. So that doesn't mean anything. But when you're not even an American and you're talking outside of your neck and smiling while you're walking down the road, putting together cases that you know nothing about, then you end up like this. Let's go to the next one. Look at sis here. Roll the clip.
Tasia Fortune, a black woman, was found hanging so high up from a tree behind an abandoned home that the fire department had to cut her down.
Time out. She's hanging so high up that the fire department had to cut her down. So what you're saying is that Goliath hung her from the tree. If she's so high up that the police had to take her down, the firefighter had to take her down, then who put her up there? That means that a person couldn't put her up there, a regular person couldn't put her up there without assistance. Or did she climb up in the tree and do it to herself? But they say things and they try to make it sound good, therefore you think, oh, that's something there. Police taking you down from a tree, they have to take you down from any tree. That's what hanging is. You're hanging so high that your feet don't touch the ground. So they have to get you down. They can't just cut it. They got to cradle your body, lift your body up to take the tension out, cut the rope, and then pull you down safely and put you on a gurney. Roll the clip.
Herself. She didn't hang herself. And
How do you know?
I have a question for Black Mississippi. This has been going on for how long? Do you guys ever stand up? Do you guys ever return the strange fruit? Ever? Because, I mean, it's not 1865. It ain't the early 1900s. It ain't even the early 2000s anymore. When do you stand up? When does the black community in general stand up against these mobs? Because that's really what it is. It's just lynch mob.
Time out. This is what's wrong with the black community today, to be quite honest. Ailments in the black community that make the black community unsustainable, generally speaking. She is asking for people to mob on evidence that they don't have. She wants people to mob when there's no evidence that anybody did this to her but herself. So go out and protest, go out and scream, go out and burn things without even having evidence of a crime or what may have happened to this young lady. So you go burn your city down, you burn everything, you scream, you protest, and then it comes out that she actually unalived herself. Then what do you have? That's why you need to be sane and let the investigation unfold. Demand for justice, meaning demand that there's a fair investigation. That's totally fine. But once the results come out, you have to accept the results. Continue.
We have firearms now. We got access to the same rope they got. If we are truly as violent as their per capita data suggests, how is it that y'all aren't decorating Mississippi? How is it that there's not a plethora of white bodies just dangling all over Mississippi? Oh, is it because we're not as violent as you say? Because those wouldn't all be suicides, right? You wouldn't assume that like 25 hanging white corpses from a tree one day in Mississippi was a suicide. That's suspicious. But you keep finding black people hanging from trees in Mississippi and calling it a suicide like we don't have eyes.
So every time a black person is hanging from a tree, it's somehow a white lynching. That just doesn't make logical sense. Get some evidence first. Here's another idiot, and then we're moving on to the next topic. Don't even live in America. But this is what propaganda does, and this is why some of the activists push this stuff into the ether so that they can have people around the world thinking that black people are just getting lynched in trees. Roll the clip.
Black people are being lynched in America. It's happening all over the South. And when law enforcement shows up and finds another black body hanging from a tree, they say, oh, it was a suicide. It's not suicide. It's white supremacists murdering black people. More specifically, it's white people murdering black people. In a Hollywood movie, you might hope to see the FBI show up, blanket the area with agents, track down the white supremacists, and bring justice to these murdered people. But Kash Patel, his FBI doesn't give a damn.
Oh.
And Donald Trump's Department of Justice? Well, not only do they not give a damn, they approve of it.
Oh, okay.
So I just have one question for white people. How much longer are you going to let your silence about this make it continue? How much longer are you going to let this monstrosity in the White House murder?
We know where this is going. They want white people to rebel and assume that white people killed a person with no evidence. It's just the stupidest stuff I've ever heard in my life. Let's get to the next story. I want to give a quick ad read for Synergy. I want to do a Synergy ad read. If you're looking for sustainable, clean energy for the day, good, sustainable, clean supplementation for you to get some good sleep at night, that's our Synergy system. Good, clean energy, 75 milligrams of caffeine, so you're not over-caffeinating yourself and getting into a rut where your body is overworked and you can't go to sleep. We don't do that to you. We give you clean energy, 75 milligrams, and then you can go to sleep, have 1 milligram of melatonin in it, tons of magnesium in it to get good quality sleep, plus ashwagandha. You get good sleep, you wake up with energy, sustain energy, get good sleep, wake up with energy. That cycle will change your life. SynergyLife.com, SynergyLife.com. Let's get to the next story. This is Ed Paulsick, who is the attorney, the defamation attorney for the boys in the Nolan Wells case. When I say the boys, the white boys that y'all called, some of which I interviewed. I interviewed all the ones he represents, so not some of which, all the boys that they represent I interviewed just this past week. Here is his statement to Nancy Grace. Now, here's what I will say. I love Nancy Grace. I've been on the show multiple times. I plan to go on the show again. I do think if I had to be a producer on her show, I would say, Nancy, slow down on this, slow down on that. That's not true. That didn't happen. Hear me out. So you're not putting yourself out there where you got a defamation attorney coming after you. Now, I'm not saying it's legitimate or not. I'm just giving y'all the evidence of what's going on. All right, so I'm going to have my team read this because for me, I'm looking at words that's this little. All right, Joe, hit it.
Dear Nancy Grace, stop asking clown questions. You claim to care about the truth regarding Nolan Wells. I'm really beginning to wonder about that. If you want to know the truth, why do you keep asking bad faith questions that have nothing to do with the events of July 4th, 2026? As a former prosecutor, you should have known better than to ask irrelevant questions that are calculated only to anger and inflame. You opened our interview by asking me how I became involved in the representation of my completely innocent friends, Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, and Morgan Seymour. You surely knew that this question cannot and should not be answered for multiple reasons. The three best reasons are attorney-client privilege, safety, and relevance. You asked an incredibly stupid question and wasted everyone's time. So here are three good faith questions for you. Did you really think I would divulge attorney-client privileged communications? Did you really think I would expose the individuals involved in my retention to death threats and calls for violence by revealing their name? Given that I was nowhere near Horn Island on July 4th, 2026, or anywhere near Mississippi for that matter, can you come up with any earthly reason as to your bad faith clown question would bring us closer to the truth about what happened to Nolan? Bad faith, Nancy. Clown question. Ask a bad faith clown question and you are going to receive an answer about matching blue pickup trucks. Ask some good faith questions and you'll get answers that move us all closer to the truth. You need to stop putting that onus on your guests to respond to bat crazy conspiracy theories. Suggestion: talk about the actual facts. A good starting point would be telling your audience about the fact that there were 24 folks on board between the Triton and Tideline. Why have none of those 24 folks endorsed any of the bat-crazy conspiracy theories about Nolan being aboard these boats? The outrage factory has been going full throttle for well over a month, and yet no evidence has emerged in support of this conspiracy theory. Shocker. By the way, try letting your guests actually speak instead of constantly talking over them. You might actually learn something. Holy smokes. Be better, Ed.
Now, Ed is a lawyer that represented Donald Trump in hundreds of millions of dollars in defamation suits. What I will say, and it's just my personal observation, and I think Nancy would understand that I can disagree with her on some things, just like she disagreed with me. But I do think that Nancy Grace reiterates a lot of questions that I feel like I've answered on her show. I feel like I've given sufficient responses. Now, it's okay to push back, but to what end? At what point is it pushing back versus at what point is it pushing a theory that is no longer validated? I'll give you an example. When I was on her show just last, I told her about the cell phone that was not given to authorities. And she questioned me and told me, how do I know? And I gave her, I don't know, 3 or 4 times where I said the attorneys for Jax, Warren, and Morgan are saying that she hasn't given the phone over. The lawyers that represent Nolan Wells' family is saying they're prepared to give it over. The day before I went to the interview with her, so that means they haven't given it over. With that articulation that I presented on the show should have been reasonable enough to say, okay, I get your perspective. Let's wait to see what happens. Instead, she continued to go after me saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, as if I've just made it up and I'm lying and deceiving. And that's not necessarily true. And then we find out what? They still, to this day, haven't given the phone to authorities. And I don't care what the excuses are. I don't care what nobody say. The phone hasn't been given to authorities for evaluation, period. All right, here's another letter from Ed. Roll it.
Dear Nancy Grace, letter number 3. I've been to Horn Island, Mississippi, you know, the actual location. Have you? The tragic death of Nolan Wells did not occur on a deserted island in the South Pacific. It occurred on a heavily trafficked and well-known island not far from the Mississippi mainland. On July 4th, 2026, beneath a bright sun, there were thousands of people packed into a relatively small area on the western portion of this barrier island located near Biloxi. Moreover, the west end of Horn Island is extremely narrow, mostly flat, and essentially devoid of trees or other visual obstructions. If your goal was to commit a heinous crime and get away with it, Horn Island during daylight hours on July 4th, 2026 would have been quite possibly your worst choice of location. Plenty of witnesses, lots of light, and no cover. Our completely innocent friends, Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, and Morgan Seymour, departed Horn Island long before nightfall in front of many witnesses and under that same very bright sun that was shining all day long on July 4th, 2026. The Castaway hoax is drifting off into oblivion faster than Wilson the volleyball. Visit the island. Ed and Tyler.
Now, what is my take on this statement to Nancy Grace? Well, when I look at what I did, I decided to go to Mississippi myself and look at Horn Island. They were graceful enough to give me a tour on the boat. It wasn't the same boat I think that Nolan was on, but it was on a boat. We went out. We did the same path. I was able to observe the island and look at what happened on that day, compare that with video footage, and I can see how it is almost impossible for something nefarious to happen blatantly, which means a bludgeoned person being killed, people screaming about this person being killed, then being thrown overboard. Like, things like that are very unlikely to happen in an environment if you were there and if you see or was fair about what everybody has been saying. There is clear evidence that these 3 young men were not there when Nolan died. He wasn't on the boat. Video was already submitted, put out to the world. You know, obviously people want to see the audio of the video and all this other stuff. And it's like some of these things is not necessary to put out to protect other people who are not involved at all in this case. The law enforcement officers, which Nancy knows and others who have been looking at this case reasonably know, that law enforcement has access to all of these things. If you somehow think this video that was put out to the internet somehow is obstructing or hiding evidence within the video, law enforcement would know it because they have access to it. Clearly, in good faith, we're showing the world that, look, this is the alibi. This is what they've done. This is what law enforcement sees. Because law enforcement hadn't presented their information, we have some information that the boys are willing to present to the public that law enforcement already has. In good faith, presenting it so people can get off their back and quit blaming them for stuff that there's no evidence that they did. I think it's the third one. Is this the last one?
We do have Ed writing to Don Lemon a few minutes ago.
All right, perfect. We got Ed writing to Don Lemon. He's coming after everybody that I think he reasonably believes are not acting in good faith. I'm not judging what his synopsis is. I'm just telling you what he believes. Roll the clip.
Don Lemon, you keep taking innocent shots at completely innocent young men, Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, and Morgan Seymour, yet you have not invited us to speak with you. I thought you wanted answers. We'll speak to anyone, anytime, anywhere. The truth is on our side.
Which is, I'm in the same boat. If somebody wants to know what I know from the interviews that I did, if they don't want to watch the interview, I'm willing to go on anybody's show. We've reached out to Don Lemon. Before any interview I've ever done, I reached out to Benjamin Crump first and the Wells family, which he's the representative of the family. I reached out to all of them first. Don Lemon I reached out to more recently because he's been put my name in his mouth. And so I'm not afraid to go on anybody's show anytime to do what? Tell what I was told. I wasn't there. I don't have any other information other than what the boys have said on the interviews that I have conducted. So anybody want to have a real good faith conversation, because I'm watching people like Don Lemon and others say things that are total lies that they wouldn't have to present if they would ask me, they would ask the lawyers, they would talk to other people that are involved in this, but they refuse to do it so they can push an agenda, in my opinion. They want these white boys to be wrong so bad that they're willing to overlook evidence. Don Lemon really wanted to know. He'll have me on the show. He got my name in his mouth every time he speaks. I don't know, 5 or 6 shows now. I'll bring him on my show, but he hasn't done any research. He hasn't done an investigation. He hasn't really interviewed nothing but one person. There you go. All right, let me do another ad break real quick. For those of you who love bourbon, the best bourbon company in the United States of America, by far, in my opinion, and I love bourbon, and this is why I created Verdict Bourbon. If you want a good bourbon, good quality, smooth, 6-year aged, the guilty verdict is straight bourbon, the traditional bourbon with a lot of flavor and a lot of notes that you get in the finish, which is why I love it. But if you like a bourbon with a little bit of something to it, we have Not Guilty, which has a little bit of brown sugar in it, which gives a sweet finish. Most people love both, but I think Not Guilty is winning at this point when it comes to sheer numbers. So if you like bourbon, go on to verdictbourbon.com and get you some bourbon today. Must be 21 or older to get on the website, and make sure you drink responsibly. All right, let's get to the next topic here. A lady named Teslin Figaro, which Figaro, I didn't know that was a black woman. But anyway, the lady named Teslin, so I know her name, and she's on an interview with a guy named Elliot, who's not a doctor, and they're talking about me. Now, here's some of the things that they said. I haven't watched it. My team watched it. They presented it to me, so I know it's got to be something that I may want to hear. All right. First of all, Elliot, I went on his show in good faith because it appears that although things he said about me I disagree with wholeheartedly, he wasn't extremely disrespectful and unprofessional. So I said I can go on and maybe have a productive conversation. This young lady, Teslin, is cussing and acting a fool and doing Shanae type of stuff, and I don't want to get into an argument with a woman that's not acting in good faith and is ghetto. It's a waste of my time. I'm a boss out here. I'm not some little YouTuber that's just getting started out. I do this for a living. I have respect, and I also have credentials. I've done research. I've been around the world. You name it. I don't want to waste my time with people who want to argue with me in poor faith. I honestly think Elliot wants to argue with me to get his views up, which is fine, because I'm not ducking from anybody. I go anybody's show anytime to talk about this Nolan Wells case. The funny thing is that Elliot didn't want to talk to me about Nolan Wells. He wanted to talk to me about me and try to give me a fake diagnosis of who I am. This young lady claims she want to talk about Nolan Wells. You know, in good faith, if she wanted to have a good faith conversation, I don't care. There's nothing. Listen, I want people to understand, there's no vested interest in this for me. I went out there. They wanted to be interviewed by me. I validated, verified everything that they said. I did an interview for them to tell the world what they told me. That's it. I'm not going to, there's no jail time for me in this. I wasn't on Horn Island. After this case is resolved, I'm going to go back to living my life with my family, and the next story is going to come up. There's no vested interest for me to have anything to say but to tell you what they told me. It's really that simple. And I don't like the fact that innocent people are getting blamed in this situation unnecessarily. That's my position. But let's hear what they had to say. This is the first time I've heard this. Roll it.
You were watching my interview with former Officer Tatum last week, and you were watching with Nolan Wells' parents.
Mm-hmm.
which I want to ask about in a minute.
Why
But
they
my
watching
first
my
question I
interview?
want to ask you is,
We didn't even talk about Nolan.
what was your response to being referred to as super ghetto?
Oh, I loved it. And you and you probably have to do a whole session on me to you probably will tell me better what my response is. And again, thank you for being here.
Session on me.
Charlemagne named me the Hood Whisperer, Black Effect. I see you have your Black Effect gear on. I too, as you know, have a
Time
podcast
out.
on.
I said she was ghetto. She gets titled the Hood Whisperer. What is different? What is different from when I said you super ghetto and they call you the Hood Whisperer? How is what me saying any different than what the names people are giving you? Now watch how she act, because she probably her ghetto side probably come out.
The Black Effect Podcast Network.
I do too. Family Therapy. Everybody go check it out on Black Effect Podcast Network. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, iHeartRadio. Let's go.
Subscribe, like. So Charlemagne named me the Hood Whisperer because, and I've always had these different mantras, but he did that because of my ability to be able to speak to various different walks of life. And not from a standpoint of, I know them, or I learned about them, or I've interviewed enough of them. And when I say them, I'm talking about the least of these, the disenfranchised, those who have been not selected, those who have been, ejected, if you will. Those are the ones that live in the ghettos. Now, it's not a term that we typically use today, but if you look at the historical word of ghetto, and why Too Short wrote the ghetto, and why Willie D and Scarface, our good friends, are the ghetto boys, and all of those things, when we talk about the ghetto and what happens in those environments.
So you're ghetto. Okay, where are you going with this? All right, next clip.
And so he named me that as somebody that gets it. So when he said super ghetto, and again, I hear this all the time. Oh, she's ghetto. Oh, yeah. She's an angry Black woman. All of the tropes. I lean into those things. I remove the power away from it immediately because I lean into it. So if you say, oh, she's super ghetto, I looked at it as a superhero. Not only do I stand for the least of these in the ghetto, I do it in a super way. So when you look at the definition of super, what it means to be super, and what the ghetto is, I know he wanted to use it in a negative way, but if we look at what the ghetto is, I am proud to be able to say that I stand for the least of these. So although I appreciated you defending me, that was great. That you come from that lens to be able to say, no, she's not ghetto. Dealing with a woman that actually...
No. I said don't call her that.
Okay,
I'm not saying you're not ghetto, because I'm like you. I'm proud to be where I'm from. And
there's a lot of women that need to see a Black man basically check another one.
He just said, I just said don't call her that. I'm not saying you're not ghetto. So he's saying she's ghetto. She says she's ghetto. I don't want to argue with somebody that want to be ghetto. I want to argue with somebody that want to have a good faith conversation, because I'm a grown adult. I'm a husband with children and a professional business owner. I don't want to waste my time with people cussing and acting a fool. All right, let her finish.
I just went ahead and ordered the cape, though, as you know. I ordered the cape on Amazon.
But if y'all don't believe that's true, go follow this woman. If you don't already, follow her on IG. She literally ordered a cape and has now created the character super ghetto Teslin Figaro. Like this.
These people literally are grifting off of the conversations about me. I called her super ghetto on another show. She gets a cape now and want to have a personality. They literally are leveraging their conversation and hatred towards me to build a brand for themselves. Out of all your career, you just now got a cape because I said something. And this dude, his only popular videos is talking about me. Now, I don't care, because I'm way beyond these people, right? These people are right down here. We're getting 200 million views a month on Instagram. Like, I'm reaching people all over the world. I've been doing this for like 8 years, billions of views. These people are just starting their career off on social media. So I'm not in any way concerned about nothing they're doing. I do want to have conversations with people across the aisle in good faith. Teslin was on an interview with me on a Fox show. I had no problem with that. It was not Fox, it was Newsmax. And what was she on there? Being ghetto. And I'm like, yeah, this girl is so unprofessional and weird. Like, can you have a reasonable conversation? We don't need to get on there and act like we in the hood. It's so immature to me. But anyway, it's the last clip. Roll it.
Okay, actually, no, before we even do that, and I haven't asked you this privately, how did the parents experience watching my interview with
Time out. Why is his parents watching the interview and we didn't talk about Nolan not one time? Elliot told me in the DM, I can show it to you if you guys want to, that I said, hey man, you should interview me since you got my name in your mouth all day. All right, what do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about what you said about me. The things that you said about me that were not true, and you can question me and challenge me on all of those things. He sends me a message back, say, that's not what I want to talk about. I put a question mark. I'm like, what do you want to talk about then? I want to address the things you said about me on your show. He just want to interview me, and I said, all right, I'll do it. Let's do it, our interview. And we interviewed. Why is Nolan's mom and them watching his interview with me? We're not even talking about Nolan, not one bit. All right, roll it.
Brandon Tatum.
I'm going to be honest with you. I was there with them. We were in Atlanta. We were recording Jamal Bryant's podcast that should be dropping this week.
Hold on. Jamal Bryant? Let me tell you how ghetto and weird and low energy, low vibration people are. Jamal Bryant cheated on his wife, got outside babies, all kind of stuff. He is a disgraced pastor. Took over a church of a pastor who was considered a pervert and abused people. He ended up settling in a lawsuit when these boys are saying he was grooming boys, and they got pictures that they put online of him taking pictures in his bathroom, sending it to boys at his church. I forget his name. He got ousted out of the church. He ended up dying, actually. And then Jamal Bryant, cheating on his wife and ruined his church at Empowerment Temple, took over that other church. But they want to gloat. Why would Nolan's them mama want to go on Jamal Bryant's them podcast? The lowest of the low, criticizing me. Okay, let it finish.
And I protect them, Elliot. So although they were in the room, and I told you, and I was like, I'm literally here with them right now.
Yeah.
Which would absolutely, if he had accepted the offer to bring me on, how powerful would that have been for him to actually have to be confronted with the actual information, which I know we'll get to.
Time out, bro. These people such liars. Teslin said something to me on her show, somewhere, and I wrote her a message on her comment section. I said, well, come on my show. I'll invite you on my show anytime. No, you got to come on my Instagram. Well, I'm going to go on Instagram and you got 25 followers. Come on my YouTube channel with 3 million people and we can have a genuine conversation. You claim you have evidence about Nolan. I know what I know. Let's have a conversation. No. You need to come on my Instagram channel and do Instagram Live so you don't edit. I said, we're not going to edit. We can do it live. No, don't say I turned down an offer. I offered you to come on my show, which is millions of people on it, which will get way more views and way more publicity, but you want to go on your show, which ain't a show. Nobody watching it. It's going to be 35 people watching me and you talk on your Instagram channel. What the point? What are we talking about? At least Elliot got a YouTube show, and I went on his YouTube show. Let it play.
That later. But right. I protect them in ways, meaning I did not expose her to the things that were said. But then also, you guys weren't talking about the details.
Which was intentional.
That's it, which was absolutely intentional. So,
wow.
And I need people to know this, and I'm not saying, you and I talked about this offline. Christine and Elmore, I am honored to have their permission to defend them in this way. And when people say, man, I don't know how you do it. And I don't, they ask you the same thing. I don't know why you offer a platform. I don't know why you talk to him in that way. They appreciate knowing that I can say the things that they probably cannot. They appreciate, everybody wants somebody to go beat up the bully. Everybody. So when you ask, how did they feel with the interview that you did? I'm looking at a woman that's saying, Teslin, thank you Thank you for defending me in ways that, although there are hundreds and thousands of people, thousands, if you will, who are making commentary about this case, they don't know her. She hasn't cried on their shoulder. She hasn't said, Teslin, this is what I would love to say, but I know that if I say this or that, they're going to attack me. So she is relieved,
Time
if
out.
you will.
Let me put this out there for the world to see. I will talk to Nolan's parents privately. If they want to confront me on a phone call, tell me what they want to say to me, give me information that I'm wrong about, I'll do it publicly or privately, whatever they want to do. If I'm wrong about something, correct me. I'll come on my show and correct it if I'm wrong. I will get on a phone call with these people tonight. And nobody got to know we did it. I can keep it private. Y'all want to talk to me if you think I'm doing so much harm to your family, I'll talk to you. I'll bring you on my show and let you tell me what side you have if it's contrary to what I'm presenting, which is the only side I have because y'all won't even talk. I only have one interview. Well, one side of the interview. I'm only presenting what evidence I have in all the interviews that y'all have done publicly, not on my show. These people act like somebody got something to hide, man. Look, I don't know Nolan. And I don't know none of these people. I just know that y'all pushing racism is not fair, and then they proved to me that they weren't even there when Nolan died. Why don't y'all come out and apologize to them for painting them with a broad brush as if they are murdering somebody? Why didn't y'all go talk to them instead of me talking to them? And I reached out to y'all first, and y'all did not to talk to the brother. But I'll say it like this: I want the world to know. I might go on a podcast with that ghetto girl, because these people are so arrogant and they take this stuff so personal and they're biased that if I talk to you on an interview, I'm not going to tell you nothing that I didn't already say. There's nothing hiding. I'm not hiding anything. I didn't spend my own money to go and do investigations to get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan. Y'all not interested in that. Y'all want to get to the bottom of your hypothesis, which was that Nolan was killed by white people. Y'all don't want to get to the bottom of the truth, or you would have talked to them already. You would have contacted their lawyers. You'd have had a private conversation with them. They reached out to have a conversation, and y'all refused to talk to them. I wouldn't have had to say nothing. I wouldn't have had to interview nobody. Why don't y'all talk to him and get this squared away before you ever went to the media and claimed that Nolan was in a fight on the island, that things were deleted off his phone, that he only went out there with 3-4 white boys. It was an abandoned island. When wrong is wrong, man. Wrong is wrong. All right. I think that's it. Was there the end to that? There was nothing else on that clip? All right. So just so anybody want to clip this, I know y'all watching my show, Teslin or whatever, come on my YouTube channel. We'll do it live. There's no edits. If you're scared of somebody editing something, I would ask you to just make sure you keep your language clean, meaning that you can use other words than cuss words to communicate your point. If you want to set up a call for me and Nolan's family, I'll talk to them in private if they want to express things to me. And if I'm wrong about something, I want them to tell me I'm wrong so I can correct it if I'm wrong. And I will publicly correct something that I've been wrong about if they tell me that I'm wrong and show me that I'm wrong. Other than that, I have nothing to go off of but the truth that I know. So quit trying to act like I'm ducking somebody. I don't even care. Nolan wasn't my kid. And I feel bad for Nolan because he seemed like he was a great kid, and his legacy should be about how great he is and not about these white boys. I want to know what happened to Nolan. I wish that I knew Nolan before any of this happened. I would have loved to have been an influence in Nolan's life. I would have loved to see him one day and help him become a better man, because he clearly wasn't a racist, biased person like some of these other people are. He had white friends that he loved just like his black friends. And if Nolan was alive today or Nolan was in heaven looking down, I would guarantee you with my entire career that Nolan would have said, don't blame them if you don't have no evidence. Don't put my friends out there like that. Let's get to the bottom of what happened to me, but if my friends didn't do it, how about you talk to them and make sure before you put my friends out there, and now they're getting death threats. 5 people have been arrested for threatening their lives. 4 people, I think. The 5th one did a bomb threat at the courthouse or something. And I heard 3 other phone calls where people should get arrested if the cops knew what their identity was. Nolan wouldn't want his friends to be treated like this. And then once you find out his friends weren't even there when he died, he definitely wouldn't want them to be blamed for something they didn't do. Let the main thing be the main thing. All right, I think I'm gonna conclude the show. I'm gonna get to the Wisconsin fight, Kentucky stuff. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. We don't have a post show tonight. Grant had to go. He had a family thing he had to deal with, so we're not gonna do the post show tonight. And my wife is not here to do it with me because I know she want to jump in and do it. So we're not gonna do a post show. We'll do a post show tomorrow. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Y'all pray for me. Pray for our country. We out of here.